Hello. Welcome back to the Fertility Confidence Podcast. We are going to answer, I should probably take that back because we're not going to fully answer, but we are going to start to unpack the layers to kind of the age-old question that I get in my Instagram DMs all the time. And that is, I have a regular period. Why am I not getting pregnant? And there's so much I feel like I have to say about this, that this might end up becoming a multiple part series. We shall see. But one of the things that whenever I read this statement or someone asks me this or tells me this or comments on something, we get a lot of emails with like, I don't understand. I have a regular period. Why isn't this happening for me? It truly breaks my heart because really the essence of this entire belief and conversation really comes back around full circle to the fact that as young women, we are not properly taught about our hormones and our cycle, and what we need to be looking out for and what we can learn about our health and what it all even means. We just assume like, as long as I'm bleeding, it's all good. And that's not the case. And a lot of this is, the reason I'm recording this actually is I've had a few patient interactions over the last 6 months where I've had to have this conversation where, they've come in to see me. We started the process in FCM and, we're doing the investigative work, the discovery, the digging deep. And they haven't really been properly tracking their cycle. And, they're like, well, I get a bleed every, 28, 30, 35 days. Sometimes I try to use LH strips and they're always so confusing or, I haven't gone that route yet or what have you. And once we do our investigation, we dig deeper, we start to properly track, we do some blood work, we discover that these women actually aren't ovulating. And if you're not ovulating, you quite literally can't get pregnant. Like there's nothing we can do to work around that. It is the main event. It is incredibly important. And I don't want to scare you right now. I don't want you to go, holy fuck, I have a period, but like, am I ovulating? Am I not? Like, okay, because we're actually going to spend this episode walking through like, how can you confirm this for yourself easily and not have that fear. But it's true, just because you are bleeding, it doesn't necessarily mean you're ovulating. And I have had multiple clients over the years that have a fairly regular, consistent bleed without ovulating. And you might be asking yourself, Dr. Kelsey, how the heck does that happen? Because you have spent the last however many years teaching us that if you ovulate, you make progesterone. When your progesterone drops, you get a bleed. It's the drop in progesterone that causes the cycle. Yes, okay, when we have an ovulatory cycle, that is still fact. How we get these cyclical bleeds still with anovulatory cycles, and I should asterisk this by saying not all women still have bleeds with anovulatory cycles. You might be someone who's having no period at all, and that is from not ovulating. You might be someone who's having these random sporadic bleeding, and that might be anovulatory cycles. So it's not like a black or white situation. We're kind of talking about this in sort of a vacuum of the client that still has a regular bleed, assuming that she has this regular period and therefore all is good, okay? So like I said, I don't want to scare you, but I really want to just take the opportunity after having this experience multiple times to reiterate why cycle tracking is so important. And when I say cycle tracking, I mean going beyond logging your period in your app or peeing on an LH strip or an OPK, because we also know, if you've been following me for quite some time, that I don't usually recommend the OPK route simply because they can add a lot of stress and pressure. They can become very obsessive, and you can get a positive OPK and not ovulate. You can also not get a positive OPK and ovulate. So we try to steer our clients away from that method of tracking and really work on that connection and that innate wisdom from their bodies using fertility awareness tools and strategies to both predict and confirm ovulation, have a deeper understanding of their luteal phase health, so that 2-week wait, and really help us to kind of gauge and understand a bit more of their cycle. Now, when I was kind of going through in my head what I was going to talk about in this episode, I also felt it was really important for me to say that, like, I sit here all the time harping on tracking. Tracking's important. We need to do your BBT. We need to know everything that we need to know about your cycle. But I also want you to understand that there may come a time in your journey where that narrative doesn't serve you anymore, where tracking diligently is no longer of service to you. And that's okay. I find sometimes we're actually giving our clients permission to stop tracking. And we actually are having a conversation in our FCM community right now with one of our clients that's embarking on the IVF process. And she was asking the question, like, should I keep wearing my Temp Drop? Should I keep temping through IVF? My temps are already a bit funky since starting my prep meds. I don't really know what to do here. And my recommendation in those realms usually is to probably stop, in all honesty, because it can cause more anxiety. It can cause more questions that really don't matter, that are just actually adding fuel to the fire of worry and anxiety than not. So though we're going to take the next few minutes and kind of, circle this conversation around why tracking is important, even if you have a regular period, because oftentimes the excuse or the narrative around not properly tracking or not learning how to properly track is because you have a regular bleed. So again, you just assume you actually are ovulating consistently and you don't need to do these things. I also want you to understand that depending on where you're at in your journey, this, like I said, this narrative just might not serve you anymore. And that's okay too. It's okay to take a break. It's okay to tuck your devices away for a little bit. It's okay to just trust your body and your timing. We had this conversation again, actually in the FCM community last week or the week before. And I was sharing with our women, again, that it's okay sometimes to not let yourself become so deeply obsessed with the process of tracking that you're now constantly thinking about it, constantly checking your app, constantly analyzing your temperatures, and it's causing you that anxiety piece. It's taking the fun out of it. And we already know, once you're 3, 4, 5, 6 months or longer into your journey, the fun is starting to get sucked out of it, right? So we have to find ways to infuse that back in. And if that means not tracking, I can almost guarantee you, and I don't use that word lightly, that if you just follow your body, your innate wisdom, you will know. You guys will have intercourse at the right time. Your hormones are biologically built to ensure that happens, but we lose the deep connection with that part of us when we're in the thick of a fertility journey, right? When things become robotic and scheduled and intimacy is now no longer intimate, it's a job. And this is so left field, this is probably a conversation we should circle back to. But taking the tracking out of it might actually help if that's where you're kind of feeling in your fertility journey right now. So that was definitely a big sidebar, but I'm always of the belief that when I tangent and ramble, it is because there is someone listening that needs to hear that. And if that is you, I hope you take that to heart and make some adjustments and start bringing some fun back into things for you. Okay. So really, like I said at the beginning, the essence of all of this is that school, our parents, the books, whatever is really doing us as young women a disservice by not properly teaching us about our hormones, about our cycles, and about what that actually means. And the reality is having a regular, consistent period does not mean you're fertile. It does not mean that there's nothing possibly wrong. And this is something, again, we see all the time in our inbox of women being like, I don't get it. I don't get why I'm not pregnant. I have a consistent period. I always have. My period has always been regular. Why isn't this working? And the reality is that fertility goes so far beyond you having a regular bleed, because if we circle back to the whole concept of this conversation, you can have a regular bleed and not be ovulating. If you're not ovulating, you are not going to get pregnant. What else do we need to think about if this isn't working for you? Your egg quality, sperm quality, because it's not all about you, right? And I have plans in motion about talking more around men's health and how male preconception care is equally as important as female preconception care. And they really need to get on board. As a species who, we're actually seeing fertility rates specifically in men drastically decline, like, dudes, you need to get on board sooner rather than later. So egg quality, sperm quality, timing, inflammation, optimal hormones, not just normal, but optimal hormones, immune system regulation, circulation, your thyroid, your metabolic health, your sex hormones. Like, there are so many moving pieces of this puzzle that we cannot look at your consistent cycle and be like, what the heck? Why isn't this working? So if you're listening and you are someone who has been kind of in this belief, in this camp, maybe you're early on in your journey, maybe you're a bit farther into that first year of trying, but you haven't been able to get access to any support or really be able to ask questions to your care provider, the first thing I want you to do, if you are not already doing it, is start to properly track your cycle. We need to confirm ovulation. Okay, we have to confirm ovulation. That is the first step. Once you can confirm ovulation, this now opens the next door to go deeper. But there's no point, there truly is no point in running the lab work, in paying for the investigation, in doing those things, unless we know where we're starting from. Are we starting from someone who has a regular ovulatory period, or are we starting from someone who's actually not ovulating? Those two journeys are going to ebb and flow and cross over and have similar pathways, but they're also going to help whoever it is you're working with make not only a care plan, but a plan of action to get you answers. It's going to be different regardless or depending on where you are in that process. So how do we confirm ovulation? We've actually talked about this in previous episodes, but today I just want to give a really quick shout out to tracking your basal body temperature, because it's something that you can do at home. I use the word simply very lightly because I did BBT tracking. I have BBT tracked for many, many years. My personal experience with BBT tracking started after I was told I likely wouldn't get pregnant. And that was sort of the catalyst in me saying, like, hell no, that's not my story. And I'm going to figure out absolutely everything I need to make sure that this doesn't happen and to really fully prepare my body for whatever the fertility journey brings me. It's also the catalyst to what has me here today, sharing all of that, which is kind of nice. So I used to have my pretty little pink $12 BBT thermometer that I got at Shoppers Drug Mart. I brought it absolutely everywhere with me. I kept it under my pillow. Tyler and I he took me backwoods camping in Algonquin Park. So if you are Canadian and particularly from Ontario, you'll understand what Algonquin Park is. And I've done a lot of camping. I'm definitely not outdoorsy. But it was the first time I'd ever actually been actually, that's a lie. I had done a lot of roughing it camping in high school, and then I hadn't for a very long time. And he really wanted to go. And I was like, sure, yeah, absolutely. Sign me up. And I had it in my head that I was like, okay, Kelsey, you can do this. This is going to be fun. No complaining. Let's just have a really good time. And this is such a total sidebar, but it literally poured rain on us the entire time we were portaging in Algonquin Park. We paddled and carried our canoe through sloppy mud portages and over rocks for 6.5 hours. And we got to the third lake, or the second or third lake that Tyler wanted to get to. He actually wanted to cross it and portage again into the next lake. But at that point, like, I honestly thought we were going to sink because there was just so much water and our stuff was soaked. We were soaked to the bone. And now we were also, you know, the conditions were pretty poor. Like, we were battling some pretty crazy waves. I was scared for my life, not gonna lie. So luckily he was like, let's just stay here and set up camp. But long story short, so that's the last time first and last time as an adult that I've been backwoods camping. So I was really scared, honestly. And also, and if you know me personally, this makes a lot of sense. In the morning, we left really early because we had like a 5-hour drive to get there from where we lived. And I just slipped my $5 Old Navy flip-flops on in the morning. And we get there and we're unpacking our stuff. And I was like, oh, I forgot my hiking boots. So not only did we paddle through torrential downpour and portage into 2 and maybe 3 lakes, I did the portaging in $5 Old Navy flip-flops, and about 10 minutes into the first portage, one of them broke. So I spent the rest of the weekend barefoot, no shoes. And I felt really, really, really stupid. But this is my life. So anywho, the story that brought that into my brain is the fact that I brought my thermometer backwoods camping, and Tyler just like could not let it go. He's like, I cannot believe you brought this with us. And I was like, can't miss 2 days of temps. Like, so I get it if you've been there before with BBT temping, you're like, Kelsey, it's so hard. I can't do it. Like, I understand. I've been there. And there are some rules you have to follow if you're oral temping. You need to get up at the same time every day. You need to have consistent sleep routines. You need to be rested and sleeping through the night. And you need to do it first thing in the morning. You cannot be getting up and doing other things, or your chart's going to be illegible. And if we can't understand your chart, we can't confirm ovulation. We can't move forward with investigation. When Temp Drop came into my life, it was life-changing, for lack of a better word. And at that point, I'd already had both my kids. So I was like, oh, I want to keep temping. So that I, still am getting this great information about my cycle and about my fertility, but now I'm not sleeping. Someone is always up in the night. I'm brain dead. I'm sleep deprived. I'm constantly forgetting to take my temperature. So when I found Temp Drop a few years ago, it was an opportunity for me to continue to collect the data that I wanted to collect for my cycle without the added stress of all the rules around BBT tracking. So for me, I could not do oral temping now. I simply couldn't, which is why when my clients say like, Kelsey, I can, I'm like, I get it. That's fine. Let's figure out other ways for us to gather information and data that don't feel difficult for you, because we have to always come at our plans from it's this way or that doesn't make sense. We can't go into plans with clients saying it's this way or the highway. Not every strategy, tool, success method, whatever have you, is going to work for every person's lifestyle. It's not a cookie cutter situation. It's not a one size fits all. We need to dissolve that rigidity in healthcare and allow for it to be more personalized and fluid. So not all my clients track their cycle. Not all my clients use a Temp Drop. Some are happy to use their oral BBT thermometer. Some of them use both, and I have to tell them to pick one and stop, because again, we don't need to make it hard. We need to learn how to keep things simple. And that's something that I'm really leaning into this year with my clients is how can we do this effectively, but also in a way that feels more simple, feels more light, feels more airy, feels more feminine. How do we do this in a way that actually aligns better with our hormones? And it's, taking that philosophy and rolling with it is actually helping to really bring to light our new offering that we're going to start talking about soon. It's actually going to be for my FCM clients that listen to the podcast. This is going to be a truly, I think, a game changer. in terms of what we offer inside Fertility Confidence Method. But I'm really, really excited to bring it to light. And I think a lot of the things that we talked about here today, and we talk about in the podcast in general, is really the conversations we need to be having. So I'm going to just round out this like incredibly random feeling episode by saying tracking is important. Just because you have a regular period, that does not mean you're fertile. We need to confirm ovulation, and then we need to go deeper. How can we confirm ovulation really easily at home? We're going to take our basal body temperature. Okay, and there's lots of episodes on cycle tracking and BBT and confirming ovulation. If you want to subscribe to the podcast and then scroll back and listen to some of those old episodes, those are there for you. And as always, I'll pop this in the show notes, but our wonderful friends at Temp Drop have been so generous to offer our Fertility Confidence community a 12% discount code. So if you use the code KelseyTD at checkout, you can actually put another additional 12% off any of their sale prices. So right now, while I'm recording, it is the month of March. They are having an amazing International Women's Day sale for the entire month of March, and you can actually get an additional discount with the code KelseyTD on top of that. So if this is something that's resonating with you, if you've struggled with BBT tracking, or if you have questions about, am I ovulating, am I not, is my luteal phase too short, or is it okay? I highly encourage making this investment in yourself and in your health to really figure this out for you. And if having a device, a femtech device, as we now hear kind of being talked about more in the mainstream, to actually help you gather that data, that's available to you. And if not, that's cool too. So hopefully that's helpful. Thank you for letting me ramble today. You can always tell when I record, I think, when I haven't actually had a lot of like interaction with other humans. So thank you for being my ear for me to chit chat at today, and I'll see you guys all next week.